Hello and welcome to the mill. I have a very busy day ahead of me today when this video is going to be posted, and so I'm going to do something a little different this week. Not going to hide around because I'm going to go ahead and use it for the cover image, but I listen to you guys. I listen to the live chats that Jamie does, and one of the things that constantly comes up is can you please put this on YouTube? And I know that Jamie has had some difficulties in the past and um, hasn't been able to get those up there, but I found a way to get the video from that live stream, and I went ahead and edited it, edited it. I, removed some silences and some ums or whatever. And so I'm going to go ahead and hand the mill off to Jamie this week and just show you the last week's live stream. I went ahead and, like I said, I took out some of the silence and added some of the references that Jamie mentioned, such as Instagram pictures. Um, Hopefully he's okay with it. I'm going to find out pretty soon. And in any case, I will be back next week with, hopefully not just another recycled Facebook live stream. It won't be, but this is a good experiment. So take care of each other and enjoy. Jamie, take it away.
Hello and welcome to this week's live cast. I'm Jamie with Stonemaier Games, and we're in my Charterstone shirt today. And I hope you're having a great Wednesday so far. As usual, I'm here to discuss random topics, Stonemaier Games news, and answer any question you want. Any question is fair game. Well, pretty much any question. We'll see if anyone pushes that limit today. Yesterday's video I did on Railroad Revolution. I don't know if you've played that, but it was a very interesting. I talked about the action selection mechanism in it, which lets you pick and choose different workers and of different colors, and those workers mean different things depending on which action you select with those workers. It's a little confusing because it's not a worker placement game. It's an action selection game, but you're using workers to select those actions. But I really like what they did there. Looks like some people have joined us. Good morning, Keith, Katie, Cynthia, Chris, Tony. I won't say everyone's name, but Megan. Hey, Barbara. Thank you for dropping by this morning. This weekend, I had a very design-oriented weekend. Lots of time for game design, which I really enjoyed. But I also had two fun activities. One, I went to R&R Rescue Ranch here in St. Louis, and I basically hung out with miniature horses, which is something that I've wanted to do for a long time. And they're still actually rather large. They're maybe a little less than eye level for someone of my height. But there was also a dwarf miniature horse named Martha who was just adorable. So if you follow me on Instagram, you probably saw those photos the other day to see these horses. They're just beautiful creatures, and I learned a lot about why they need to be rescued, because they're often not taken care of all that well. And apparently horses really do need to be taken care of on a regular basis. Like, you can't just let them roam around the pasture and come into the stable when they want. You have to actively trim their teeth and their hooves because they continue to grow over time. And we saw some really sad pictures of what they looked like before they were rescued. But meeting them was just incredible, and being able to hang out with them was a really, really cool experience. So if you're ever in St. Louis and you are interested in miniature horses, I'd highly recommend checking out R&R Rescue Ranch. Looks like Kim is back from Origins. Kim, what was the highlight of your Origins experience? Yeah, I guess some you might not be alone here, Kim. Other people might be coming back from Origins as well, a big game convention that was this past weekend. So I'm curious to hear what people thought about it and if they had a good time there. Vitaly's here. Kai, good morning. Mackenzie's here. Mackenzie, I referenced you the other day in terms of Scythe cosplay. I don't know if you saw that link, but someone was asking. Yesterday I posted a video that someone created, kind of a Scythe teaser trailer in the Scythe Facebook group. And it wasn't teasing something in the future. It was just kind of it was the type of trailer that you'll see for a movie that is being considered for the Emmys. And a fan of Scythe, made this awesome, like, epic trailer for Scythe in that vein. And I think someone, Mackenzie, in that thread asked, has anyone ever done Scythe cosplay, or someone should do Scythe cosplay? And I referenced you. There was a woman who dressed up as someone from Crimea at Gen Con as well. And then a whole group of friends dressed up as scythe characters at a UK game convention last year. But I don't think I have photos. Maybe I have photos of these somewhere, but I couldn't find them. So I tagged you on there, Mackenzie. Kai says, hey, Jamie, can we hope for a Stonemaier metal pin? That's an interesting question, Kai. I've seen at Origins. I saw a bunch of people post photos of Origins with all these like little metal pins on there. That hasn't been something that we do. Do people want that? It seems like I guess some people might collect that type of thing. It's not the type of thing that I would personally collect, but I know you might be different than me, and clearly, Kai, you seem interested in it. But yeah, I'd like to learn a little bit more about what people want there. Like, do they want a pin related to Stonemaier in general? Do they want it for buying like a Stonemaier product at a convention? What do they do with these pins? I don't really know much about them. Renee says, have I bought any game that I played at Geekway to the West, or am I planning to? That is a good question. I haven't yet. So I had kind of top 3 games at Geekway to the West. I had Tiny Towns, which I think I will buy, but I found out that at Geekway, I don't play typically games with my friends. I play with other people. And I found out that most of my friends who played Tiny Towns at Geekway did not enjoy it. So I worry that I'll buy it and then no one will want to play it with me. I will still probably get it, though. I also played Abyss, which is currently out of print, and Sentient, which is currently out of print. So makes that difficult a little bit to get those games, although I can get them on the secondary market. So no, I haven't bought them yet, but I probably will at some point. I really did enjoy those top 3 games, and I want to play them again. Peter says, have I ever tried to design a pick up and deliver game? He says he owns several, but they all seem at least a little, or they seem to have some flaws to me. He mentions the small text in Star Wars Outer Rim. Peter, that's an interesting question. It isn't a genre that I'm particularly drawn to as a gamer or as a designer. I know there are interesting ways to do it, but I don't know. What's your favorite pick up and deliver game? Because I struggle to think of one. Here, I'll look at my shelf back here. I struggle to think of a pick up and deliver game that I am actively excited to play. It's just not a mechanism that really excites me. It's hard for that to capture my imagination, but I guess there is the creative problem solving that can be in some pick up and deliver games. But no, it isn't something I'm considering pursuing as a core game mechanism in a game. Yeah, not that I can currently think of. Mackenzie says she promised Hobie, the designer of My Little Scythe, a My Little Scythe cosplay for Gen Con this year. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed out on that, but hopefully I'll see some photos of what that looks like, Mackenzie. That'll be cool. Charles says, am I excited for Toy Story 4? Absolutely. Yes. Oh, yeah. I love the Toy Story movies. And I've heard that this one is just as good as all the other ones. I think 2 was a little bit, like I don't remember it as well as 1 and 3, but I've been hearing such great things about 4. I have a pretty packed weekend this weekend, so I don't know how I'm going to make it happen this weekend, but I do want to see that quite soon. Are you going to go with your kids, Charles? That might be fun. Let me see if FedEx is calling here. No FedEx. FedEx did actually bring a package that I cannot show you. That's right here on my desk next to the camera. That is something that I need to inspect today, and it looks awesome, but I can't show you. So you can stipulate, you can think about what this might be, but I cannot show you. Mary says, I know you have mentioned that I love Scotland Yard. I do, yeah. You can't see it quite on camera down there, but it's down there. Have I played Letters from Whitechapel? I have. I played that once. Can I compare the two of them? It's tough to compare the two of them because I've only played Letters from Whitechapel once. I enjoyed the additional layers of theme in Letters from Whitechapel. I remember that. But the thing that really continues to draw me to Scotland Yard is that it's so easy to set up and play. There's so little rules overhead. It's so easy to teach to people. It's just like everything that I want in a hidden movement game, distilled down to its core, most basic elements, and it works every time. I just have a blast playing it, whether I'm Mr. X or if I'm one of the detectives. So it happens to be what I want out of a hidden movement game. But I do appreciate Letters from Whitechapel and other hidden movement games for adding more layers of theme to it. Yeah, so I think it depends on what you are more interested in there. A more distinct theme, like in Fury of Dracula, Letters from Whitechapel. There's the one from Plaid Hat Games, or if you're happy with the simplicity and streamlined elegance of Scotland Yard. Kim answers my question here about how she, if she had a good time at Origins. She says she works the Meeple Realty booth, and the highlight was hanging out with people in the industry and getting to know them. Oh, and playing Grim Masquerade with Emerson Matsuchi. I haven't met Emerson, but I've heard he's the nicest guy. So that's really cool that you got to play with him. And I didn't. Is Grim Masquerade his game? I know that's a game from James Hudson, but I wasn't sure who actually designed it. So that's really cool if you get to actually play with a designer. So people are responding to my question about pins, what people would use pins for. Eric says a scythe pin would be awesome. Keith says he's been giving away pins at conventions, and people seem to love them. Chris says he'd like them as well. I won't go through every comment, but people seem to like these pins. What do you do with the pins? You just put them on your game bag, or is it? I guess gamers are collectors, so I can see that gamers would like little pins. Just because it's something to collect. Oh, Kai says that Vegeon is a pick up and deliver game. Kai, I still haven't played it yet. I'm sorry I haven't played it. I do look forward to playing it. And maybe it'll be a pick up and deliver game that does capture my imagination and my creative juices. We'll see if that happens. People are saying that they want patches now too, patches and pins. Okay. Peter mentions, so I asked, Peter was the one that brought up pick up and deliver games, and he says that he likes Firefly, Zaya, and Wasteland Express. I've played Zaya and Wasteland Express. I liked most of the pick up and deliver elements of Wasteland Express. I remember particularly, I've only played it once, but I really liked the how your player mat felt like you were driving a car, how you'd shifted into different gears. That I remember being pretty cool. Joseph is joining us for his first stream. Thank you for joining us, Joseph. I know you found out about this on the YouTube channel and found out that this exists. And yeah, every Wednesday I'm here at 10 a.m. from like 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central Time for about an hour here on Facebook Live. Cynthia Meeple Source, who's kind of representing Stonemaier Games at Gen Con this year, says the Pin Bazaar will have a pin for Wingspan at Gen Con available at the Stonemaier Games Meeple Source. Okay, so there you go. I don't even have to make a pin. Cynthia's got it covered like she does with everything at Gen Con. I really appreciate that, Cynthia. And so apparently there will be a Wingspan pin at the Meeple Source Stonemaier Games booth this year at Gen Con. My Sunday sit down this past week was about racing games, which maybe sometimes has a little bit of overlap with pick up and deliver games. But I was talking about racing games, my favorite games where you're sometimes betting on a race, sometimes actually participating in the race. My favorites seem to be those where you are betting on different elements of the race and where your victory doesn't hinge solely on you finishing first. Some of my favorites mentioned there were Camel Up, Downforce, and a little surprise twist of Mario Kart 64, which is my favorite digital video game racing game. We played that a lot in college. Pretty much every day we do a Grand Prix of Mario Kart 64 in college. So what's your favorite racing game for digital, and favorite racing game for the tabletop? I'm curious to hear what your favorites are. Renee says that, okay, he says, my current issue is that I see a game that I really enjoy thanks to its mechanisms and buy it. But then when he shows it to his group, they don't like it. He said that happened with Res Arcana, but I won't give up on it. What do you do in this case? Yeah, that's an interesting question, and something that I mentioned with could be the case for tiny towns in my group, where I think I enjoy a game, or I do enjoy a game for my one play, but the group doesn't enjoy it. I don't know. That is somewhat discouraging. If I'm really excited about something, then I want to play it, and I don't have other people to play it with. So here's what I think I would do in your situation, Renee. I have a pretty diverse group of people who I play games with, largely due to its size. Like at any weekly game night, there's usually between 8 and 12 people at my game night. And so while I might try a game with a few people and they don't enjoy it, I can then try a different group of people to see if they enjoy it. But I don't want to, I really like press people to give a game another try if they don't want to. I want people to be excited about playing a game. And so I'll usually like float it around to different people until I find the people that are excited to play it with me. Some people are joking right now that I mentioned that I have a package that I cannot show you, but that it is here, that a package does exist and you can't see it. Connor has a legacy question. He says, you've been forced to vacation away from family, friends, and cats by threat of pain. You find yourself in a foreign country where I don't speak the language. I'm starving. Do I mime a food order at the nearest restaurant, or do I continue to wander in hopes of finding an English speaker? I'd probably pull out my phone. Yeah, you didn't say that I don't have a phone on me. Yes, I do have a phone, and I would just type it into Google Translate and have it say what I want. I know I'm cheating a little bit there, but I think I'm following your rules there, Connor. So that's what I think I would do. And Connor, I don't know if you missed this last week, but I did have kind of a revelation recently that there are 2 times of the year where I think they might be good times for me to take vacations, one or both of them. And they are, oddly enough, Gen Con and Essen. This year, I'm not attending Gen Con. I don't attend Essen. And during those times, as I actually experienced a little bit last week with Origins, things in my realm, like the types of like daily things that come up that I don't even expect, are a little quieter than normal at those times where those big gaming conventions are happening. And so I think that actually might be a great time for me to go on a vacation. I know it's odd because I'm in the gaming industry. It seems more normal for me to actually go to those conventions. But I'm a little excited about the prospect of using those times to take a little break and go on a little vacation. So I'm going to experiment with that. Gen Con might be coming up a little bit too fast for me to do so, but I am looking into maybe taking a trip at Essen, not to Essen, but to a different place other than Essen, and just seeing if that works out, seeing if I come back to more work than I ever thought, or seeing if I come back to a relatively low workload and I just have a great time relaxing on vacation. So we'll see what happens there. And I'm curious, kind of what you think about that theory. I know you attend many of these conventions, but in the game industry, do you think that works for someone who maybe doesn't pursue conventions as a marketing strategy, or who has great partners like MeepleSource to represent their games at Gen Con? Is that a valid strategy for someone like me who probably needs to go on a vacation from time to time? Chris says he had a blast teaching Die Hard last week in Defense Against the Dark Arts. I'm really curious about the Die Hard game, Chris. I love heist games. I know it's not quite a heist theme, but it's pretty close to a heist theme. I love the movie. Yeah, what do you think about the game itself? Did you have fun playing it, or were you just teaching it? Spectrops, Peter clarifies, Spectrops is the plaid hat hidden movement game. Chad says, when I receive a prototype game from a designer, how many times do I play test it before I make a decision on whether or not I will pick it up? Usually it's just one play test, Chad. Usually it's Alan handles that part of the submission process. He brings the game to me at our weekly meeting. We play it, and usually I know right away if I am excited about pursuing the game or not. And I think with any game, I could probably work with it a lot and make it into a game that I'm excited to publish. But if I'm going to work on a game that much, I might as well just design it myself. I'm looking for games that are pretty close, that are very unique, very innovative, and maybe they need some development, but they're pretty close. So that's why I don't give a game really often more than one chance. There are rare exceptions to that. Wingspan was one of those where I was very intrigued by it. I played it once at Gen Con, and then I played it again before I really fully committed to it. And let me think if there are other games like that. I think we kind of did that with Between Two Cities, even though I was very interested from the start. My Little Scythe, I was hooked right away. So usually it's just one playtest to hook me. And there are a few games, too, that are submitted to me that I play, and I'm very interested in them, or I'm interested in them, but I'm unsure about what I want to do with them. So I kind of sit on them for a little while before, and I make contact with the designer right away, or I have Alan do that. But I might come back to the designer later and say, hey, it's still in my head. Like, I'm still thinking about your game. Let's do something with it. So, but usually it's just one playtest. Long answer to what it could have been a one-word answer. Daniel says that he gave away long pack pins the first time in Origins and ran through a big order of them on the second day. So apparently, yeah, people at conventions at least love these pins. Charles says, what are my thoughts on semi-cooperative games? Do I enjoy them, or would I rather just play full cooperative or competitive? Well, Charles, some people have called Between Two Cities and Between Two Castles semi-cooperative, and I think that's a pretty close way to describe it. We describe them as partnership games, but they're competitive games that have cooperative elements. So they're pretty semi-cooperative. So as you can tell from both of those games that I publish and that I love, I do enjoy some semi-cooperative games. I think So would you put like trader games in that genre? Games where you are, I would put them into the maybe the broader category of semi-cooperative games where you're cooperative, but there might be a trader, and so you're not truly fully semi-cooperative or fully cooperative. There's also games like Euphoria that have moments of cooperation where everyone benefits if you all work together on something. So I would say, yeah, I'm intrigued by the levels of player interaction semi-cooperative games can include. And I can't offhand think of any like cooperative game that I wish was semi-cooperative or any semi-cooperative game that I wish was just fully cooperative. But I'm sure there are examples out there. I don't know. Do you have a specific game in mind, Charles? Maybe you played one recently and had some thoughts about it. I'd love to hear your example, maybe if it's one that I played as well. Vitaly mentioned that there's that PAX is big on pin trading and collecting. Makes sense. Let's see if I have any other topics. I played and taught Burgle Brothers last week, which is a fully cooperative game. No semi-cooperation in that. And that's one of my favorite cooperative games. I got to teach that to a few friends who were going to play test the expansion. And yeah, had fun with that on last week at Wednesday. Also played one of my best games ever of Fantasy Realms. I scored, I think, 261 in Fantasy Realms with a king-queen army combo that was very satisfying. Ernani's, oh, here, I missed a question here. Chris says, I was delighted, and if I do ever miss a question, feel free to post it again. I'm almost definitely not intentionally ignoring it. Chris says, I was delighted to pick up Wingspan recently. He says, congratulations, which was very nice. The production quality of the games, of my games, is incredible. Well, thank you, Chris. Full of compliments here. Do I worry that I'm setting a bar so high that it'll be tough to maintain? No, not really. The toughest thing for me in a game design or a game production process is when I have to cut a component that I really wanted to be in the game just because it was going to push the MSRP too high. So that's the only time that I really struggle with it. Otherwise, I love putting beautiful components in our games. Yeah, that's something I always want to do. I always enjoy doing that. So it isn't. I'm not worried about there being a bar or trying to maintain with that bar. And yeah, I also love seeing other companies publish beautiful special components in their games because oftentimes they inspire me. They make me want to make more beautiful stuff too. Ernani says, can I tell us if the Wingspan expansion and Codename Clay are going to be released in Q3 or Q4? I cannot tell you that. I could tell you that, but at this point, no, I'm not going to tell you that yet. But I appreciate you asking. I'll announce them. Just stay tuned it sounds like you're subscribed to the e-newsletter, so stay tuned there, and I'll announce it when the time comes. I just saw James Hudson's face pop up here, and I wanted to recommend his new video series to anyone if you know James, or if you just like discussions about kind of the people in board games as they are related to board games that they love. His first video went live on Gamma Ray yesterday. So if you search on YouTube for Gamma Ray, you'll see the first video of James and Rodney from Watch It Play, two of my favorite people in the game industry, just talking about Mansions of Madness and their connections to games and the tabletop industry. It is a great video. I highly recommend watching that. Tony says, any thoughts about Restoration Games' upcoming remake of the classic Dark Tower game? Tony has heard that it's going to be cooperative now. It was a favorite back in the day. Did I play it back in my youth, or maybe even more recently? Honestly, Tony, I'd never even heard of that until they announced it. So I know nothing about the original version of the game. But I love what Restoration Games has done. I love Rob Davio's work. I've heard that Isaac Childress from Gloomhaven is working on it a little bit too. So I am very curious, at least, to see what they create. Ed says, will there ever be something to push store play, like Wingspan or Scythe tournaments? So, Ed, I'll tell you a quick story related to this. And actually, I'll answer it first, then I'll give you a quick story. My answer is that I encourage people, our fans, our ambassadors, to do cool stuff with our game. So if that means they want to run a local tournament, they can. If they want to share one of our games at a game store, they are welcome to. And I encourage that, and I support it both like through verbally, but also at times when appropriate, I support it with like special promos or products, anything I can do to support that type of thing. But a long time ago, here's the story. A long time ago, I ran a Euphoria tournament at Geekway to the West, and it was had a $300 cash prize to the winner, and there were a lot of people interested in it. It went well. It actually ran very smoothly, but I ended up walking away from it feeling a little weird, both from my observations and what I heard from some people, because it just didn't seem to fit into the feeling of Stonemaier games, having this like competitive driven environment of people competing against one another. And I know we make competitive games, but it just felt weird in a competitive environment like that, where there were stakes, where there was something on the line. It just felt odd. And so I haven't pursued it as an official thing ever since then. And I'm not really even sure that there's much of a return on investment in investing in tournaments, or in tournaments in particular. I would say there probably is a return on investment in store play. But yeah, tournaments in particular, I had that experience. So I was like, I don't think that meshes well with what I'm trying to do at Stonemaier Games and the feeling I'm trying to give people. I want people to have fun competing, but I want them to have the focus to be on the fun, not the competition itself. So that's my thoughts. So Kim clarified that Grim Masquerade, the game that she played with Emerson Matsuuchi, was designed not by Emerson, but by Tim Eisner, Ben Eisner, and James Hudson. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that, Kim. Lisa says, have I played Wacky Races? It's cute. No, I haven't played Wacky Races, but I appreciate the recommendation. I've heard good things about that. That came up in the comments of my video. And another one, what was the other one that came up? It was something about like wizards competing in a race style game, I think. An older game, maybe. Cindy says, as a game designer, do I win in the games that I designed most of the time? And Cindy, I would say no, maybe 20% of the time. Because often with my games, well, A, when I'm playing one of my games, I really want other people to be having a good time. So a lot of my attention is on the other people and not so much my strategy. And B, I like to try weird strategies, particularly in my games. And so that often happens, and that doesn't always lead to victory. But if anyone ever wants to sit down and play one of my own games with me and really compete, and they know the game well, and they say, Jamie, let's just go all out. I think I can beat you at your game. Let's do this. I am happy to oblige, and in those cases, I would say that I win maybe 50 or 60% of the time. So a much better winning percentage when my sole focus is to beat the person who has challenged me at my own game. Joseph says he's always wanted to know what's my favorite kind of food. Oh, I like lots of food. In fact, usually, Joseph, I have a chocolate of the day or chocolate of the week, and this week you can't see it from the packaging, but this is chocolate XXO. This is the salted almond butter. I love this. I'm gonna have a little treat after this video is over. So chocolate is definitely one of my favorite types of food. But I also I eat spinach, baby spinach every night. I love baby spinach. I love Japanese food. I love Cajun food is one of my favorite types of food. Cajun food I really, really love. I like a pretty broad variety of food. So it's tough for me to say that there's one specific favorite type of food. Depends on my mood, depends on my cravings, that type of thing. Cody says, have I played any of the Fire Emblem video games? And am I excited about the upcoming release, Three Houses? Cody, I must admit I'm not familiar with any of those words that you just used, Fire Emblem or Three Houses, but I'll have to check them out. I appreciate the recommendation. Sorry, sometimes I get a text. I want to make sure that I'm not doing something weird on camera, that I've like revealed a spoiler in the background. So I want to check my text when I'm on these chats. Oh, Mackenzie said she did a review of a racing game this morning, so maybe that's changing. I'll have to check this out. The Meeple Street. Let's see. You okay, Walter? Okay, let's see what Mackenzie's review is. Is this today? Yeah, this is today. Here we go. Mackenzie did a review of Empty Space Explorers, which is apparently is a racing game. That's on the meeplestreet.com. I'll be reading that after I get off the video here. Walter's. Are you okay, Walter? Hold on. Let me see. Walter's. Oh, Walter wants some tummy time. Sorry, Walter. Not right now. Yeah, Walter a few times a day will come to me. He'll whine and whine and whine. He doesn't want food. He wants to come sit on my belly, on my chest for a few minutes and just kind of purr and just sit there. It's very important to him. It's usually once or twice a day, and apparently he needs that right now. Walter, you're gonna have to wait 30 minutes, okay, bud? Here, let me see if I can get him to say hi. Yeah, Here's Walter. I'll see if he'll sit here for a minute and just have some head scratchies. Okay, and sorry about, I don't know if you can hear it in the background. My AC is still not working, and so I have my little portable AC unit back there, but it's going to be fixed tomorrow. Should be fixed tomorrow, and hopefully that you can't hear the sound of that AC in the background too much. Okay, people are catching up with what I said about vacations. Lisa points out that I don't have to go on a big, complicated vacation. I could just take a nice, relaxing, more local vacation. I love that. I love that idea. Joe says sometimes you just have to commit to a date and just go, otherwise it doesn't happen. And yeah, I like that idea too. I've had that happen a few times. Charles says, "Do I consider Die Hard a Christmas movie?" I would say yes. I agree with you, Charles. A movie doesn't have to be about like Santa Claus to be a Christmas movie, and I would say Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Okay, so to Connor's answering my question about vacation, he says that traveling during a convention might be genius. He says that publishing demand seemed to slow during that time. And let me know how that goes, or if I want a vacation in Canada. I do actually kind of, I don't know if this is where you are. I don't think this is where you are. I would love to go to Vancouver someday. The closest I've been to Canada is British Columbia, which is in Canada, but that was a long time ago. And I've just heard great things about the food. Like I said, I love Japanese food. I've heard there's great Asian food, including good ramen and sushi in Vancouver. And I've heard the hiking's great, the scenery's great, but the city is also really cool. And there's a game cafe there. Some of my people I work with at Panda are there. So I would love to go to Vancouver someday in particular. Grant says that I could take a vacation in Japan. I certainly could. It's been a while since I've been there, and I'd love to return to Japan. The one thing is, as much as I love Japan, I have been there 3 times now, and so I do want to go to some other places. He says, have I played any Japanese games? Yeah, I played a bunch of games from Oink Games. Yedo is back there on my shelf, Japanese-inspired game that I love. Hanamikoji is one of my favorite games, Japanese-themed, or lightly Japanese-themed, based on geisha. Martin says, I created a poll on the viticulture page for a couple of weeks ago regarding a viticulture neoprene playmat, such as one for Scythe. Seems that a lot of people like the idea. Do I think I'll be creating one? Martin, I appreciate you doing that. I think polls like that are a great way to see if people are really interested in special components like that. I'll have to go back and look at the poll, or Martin, you can email me a screenshot of the results. Because remember, when we want to make a component, we need to, like, the minimum quantity that I can make is 1,000 units. So there needs to be a pretty significant amount of interest for me to justify doing something like that. So I'll have to think about that for viticulture. I really like neoprene when you need to pick up cards off the mat a lot, but it's not great when you have very small text on anything, and the viticulture mat does. That text doesn't show up quite as well. So, although you might be talking about the game board, I bet you're talking about the game board here, not the player mats, the vineyard mats. So for the game board, yeah, I guess that's possible. It's possible. Yeah, I'll have to. The game board with viticulture has some complications because I have the original viticulture game board and the Tuscany game board. I have both of them, and the Tuscany game board is double-sided, and neoprene typically doesn't work as well when it's double-sided because you kind of need that grippy side to it. So some complications there for the viticulture board becoming a neoprene version. Eric says that he enjoyed my recent viticulture post where I shared an early design of the player mat. Yeah, that was fun to post. I just kind of stumbled upon that and posted that in the, it was a playtesting prototype version of the viticulture vineyard mat, and I posted it in the viticulture Facebook group, I think yesterday, or maybe the day before. Eric says, have I shared other early designs on my blog, or would I be willing to share some of the early drafts from Euphoria, Charterstone, or Scythe? Eric, I will try to do that more often. I have it. They're out there over time on Instagram and the various design diaries and groups, but it never hurts to return to those posts and to show you what very early versions or even final prototype versions of those games look like. So I'll try to keep that in mind and do that on a somewhat regular basis in those groups. So I do have fun doing that. Chris says, will I make an appearance on James Hudson's show? I would love to. If I'm ever out in California, again, I would love to join James if he would have me for an episode of the show. Magical Athlete, Jeff mentioned. Magical Athlete is the game that's that came up as another racing game that seems pretty cool. Mackenzie says, what is my favorite Cajun dish? That's a favorite in her house too. My favorite Cajun dish is probably gumbo. I really, really love gumbo. I've tried, I think, every gumbo in St. Louis that I'm aware of, and the shaved duck is still my favorite. But I really, really love gumbo. A nice thick brown roux. Love it. So if I went to New Orleans, I'd probably eat gumbo more than once. Okay, Lisa says, rather than tournaments, it's probably more valuable for both me and the friendly local game store to make demo copies of my games available for the tables. And Lisa, we actually do. There seems to be some sort of misconception about this recently, but what we do for demos is that we tell distributors, you are welcome to sell demo copies of our games to retailers at a discount, and we will also offer you an even steeper discount than usual for those demo copies. From what I've heard from distributors, it is good to have retailers pay for demo copies, because if they don't pay for them, sometimes they just give them away, they just sell them. Whereas if they pay for them, they tend to treat them better as demo copies. That's one of the reasons. But we authorize distributors to do this. We have for years. We've authorized them to do this on a regular basis. And only a few distributors actually actively do it. But it's much easier for distributors to handle that aspect of the process of the demo process than it is for me to ship all those demo copies out to different people, because then we add the shipping cost to it. Distributors can do that without charging a shipping cost. So hopefully more distributors will do that. I've sent them a reminder about that recently, so that they can do that, or they will get that update in like 2 weeks in the distributor update that Greater Than Games sends out. Renee says, what was the result on the Wingspan playmat, or is it still being considered? Yeah, we are going to make a Wingspan neoprene playmat. It's currently in production, and I don't have a date for it yet. Ernani says he can't remember my favorite game mechanism on Underwater Cities, and I still haven't played it, Ernani. I somehow have missed out on all the recent plays that my group has played of Underwater Cities, and so I still need to try it, and I haven't done a video on it yet. Tony says, how important do I feel a strong name is for a game? And I would say very important. Very, very important. Although I'm surprised that Tony says his group is not willing to play Love Letter, perhaps partially based on the name. And I'm surprised by that. I don't find the name Love Letter to be an unappealing name. But perhaps for certain gamers that want a certain theme, that might be turned off by that. Any thoughts on any first incarnation names for Stonemaier games that I then renamed? Viticulture was originally named Trellis. Like trellis, the thing that vines grow on. That was the original name before we changed it to Viticulture. And original, I mean like during like the design process. What are some other original names? Charterstone was originally Cornerstone, but through discussions we decided to change that. Wingspan was originally Bring in the Birds, and that's the case where I think that Wingspan is a much stronger name than Bring in the Birds. I think there's just something stronger about Wingspan. What else? What are some of the other ones? We go through a big brainstorming process for game names, and then we look them up on trademarks. But yeah, so there's a big process. I think game names are really, really important. Jamie says, am I going to the St. Louis FC versus Cincinnati FC Open Cup game tonight? No, Wednesday is my game night, Jamie, so I won't be there tonight, but I hope you have fun. I did go to a game earlier this season, and it was cold and miserable, but it was still a fun game to watch, and I think St. Louis won by quite a bit in that game. But yeah, I hope you have fun tonight. The weather should be awesome. Kim says, how large is my travel group? Is it hard to decide on a vacation spot based on my group size? You know, Kim, I usually travel just by myself. Like usually when I travel, it's to go home and see my family in Virginia. That's usually my vacation time. So that's just me traveling there. I have traveled in the past with significant others, and I enjoyed that. And I took a trip to Ireland alone, which was a bit of an experiment. And I don't think I enjoyed taking a vacation. I don't like that type of travel. I don't think I enjoyed taking that type of trip alone. I'd rather take that with someone else. I think the max for me would maybe be 4 people, but ideally, I think I just do it with a significant other. I think that would be an ideal trip for me. Less people to maintain. We can be a little romantic when we want it to be. So I think that's my ideal number would probably just be 2 people, but maybe 4 for a larger group. Grant says that he got an email from Aetherworks, and I'm glad to hear that, Grant. I appreciate you being understanding about that. It's been very, very frustrating that the freight shipment of the Scythe modular boards, which should have arrived about 3 weeks ago, has still not arrived at the fulfillment center and still won't arrive for a few more days. I've been really frustrated about that, and I asked Aetherworks to send out an email about that because I felt like I had reached a point where I can't keep going back to you all and saying, hey, actually it's a different date now. So I appreciate Aetherworks doing that, and I appreciate your reception to it. That means a lot to me that you guys are flexible like that. Thank you. Okay, Connor has another legacy question. I'm loving your questions today, Connor. Connor says, my cell phone order at the restaurant results. Okay, so he's continuing the question where I'm in a foreign country. I don't speak the language. I answered it by saying I'm going to use my phone to order in the native language, the local language. My cell phone order at the restaurant results in a dish that I can neither recognize nor identify any ingredients. It gives off a faintly old or mothball smell. Do I eat it or try again? My cell phone just spontaneously combusted. I don't know how this is going to happen, Connor. I don't know if the food smells rancid. I'm not going to eat it. But if it just looks like an interesting, exotic foreign dish, absolutely, I'll try it. So I'm going to trust my gut if it's something that my body is saying, do not eat this. But otherwise, yeah, I'm happy to try local dishes and experiment. Yeah, I love like one of the reasons I do love to travel is because of the food. The food is a big part of it for me. Charles recommends gumbo yaya at Mr. B's. He says that's the best in New Orleans. Well, Charles, I will have to try that sometime. Then I really do. I would love to do like just a little gumbo trip through St. Louis, through New Orleans alone. Actually caught up with comments here. This is incredible. Brian says, has Mr. X ever won a game of Scotland Yard in my group? Brian says, this weekend we played it again. In the past several years, we realized that no one playing it as Mr. X has ever won in the group. And I think, yes, 2 times. My friend Josh, I think, has won as Mr. X. In fact, I know he's won. And then Henry, my friend Henry, has won as Mr. X very recently, in fact. I think the key with Mr. X is that you need to slip out at the exact right time. And because you're going to get cornered at times. But if you can slip out, you can make it happen. And I don't think I have ever won as Mr. X, unless my friends can correct me if that's incorrect. But I don't think I've ever won as Mr. X, but it has happened twice in my group. Mackenzie says that there's a great seafood gumbo at a Cajun restaurant near her house. Now I just want gumbo. This is complicating things, folks, because gumbo there's no like really nearby place to me that has great gumbo. The Shaved Duck, the place that I mentioned, is not open at lunch. Yeah, you're just making me want gumbo now, even though I'm the one that brought it up in the first place. I'm literally just dreaming about gumbo now, daydreaming about gumbo. Any other topics that I had today? I had homemade s'mores for the first time this past weekend. You can see photos of this on my Instagram feed if you want to check that out. Just Jamie Stonemaier at Instagram. And a friend decided to make homemade marshmallows and homemade graham crackers, which I didn't even know was possible. And we made homemade s'mores, and they were incredible. They were so good. Yeah, I hope you get the chance to try it. And so the question I posed on Instagram today was, is there any food that you typically don't eat homemade versions of that you've tried to make yourself, and what was it? The only thing that I can kind of think of is that I tried to make the Cheddar Bay biscuits that you get at Red Lobster, these really good biscuits. I have tried to make them. Oh, actually, I did try to make them from scratch, and they turned out quite good. And then I discovered that there's also a mix that you can buy at the grocery store that is the Cheddar Bay biscuit mix. So I've made that ever since then, and it's very good. But that's cheating a little bit because I'm using a mix. But I did make it from scratch one time, and it turned out well. But is there any food like that where you normally make it? You normally do not make it from scratch, but you've tried to make it from scratch and ended up either enjoying it or it was a disaster? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Charles said that he has done a gumbo tour, so he's ready for anyone or maybe me if I come to visit New Orleans and do a gumbo tour there. Kim says, Korean food, ever had it? I got to try bulgogi and kimchi. Yes, Kim, I love Korean food. Yeah, I pretty much love every Asian food. I have kimchi in my fridge right now. Right, I eat that at lunch pretty much every day. And I love bulgogi. There's some good Korean places here in St. Louis. One is actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, Kim, because I had a really good experience at a restaurant this weekend. Not Korean, but Soul Taco in St. Louis is really good. There's a Korean food truck that comes to a place right near where I live called, what is it called? K-pop. That's really, really good. But the story that I forgot about that I wanted to mention, this past weekend, I went to My Lee here in St. Louis to meet with my literary agent and her husband. And while we were eating, the literary agent was kind of there to talk with the head chef of My Lee, a guy named Key. And Key stopped by our table and ended up, like the head chef of the restaurant, just stopped by our table and ended up just hanging out and talking with us for like 30 minutes. And it was incredible. It was one of the best dining experiences I've ever had because the food was excellent, so good at My Lee. And just like to have the chef there to talk about food, and he talked about immigration because he and his family immigrated from Vietnam. He told all these stories. It was just incredible to have the chef, the owner of the restaurant, sit there and hang out with us while we were eating and just hanging out and talking. It was so cool. And it made me absolutely want to go back to My Lee and absolutely recommend it. If you ever get to go to My Lee in St. Louis, the food is just incredible. And maybe you'll have the chef stop by and say hi. But he is also involved in Nudo House, which is a ramen restaurant here in St. Louis that I've been to many times. And I've seen him work in the kitchen a little bit, but I'd never actually gotten to meet him. Really cool guy, and just an awesome experience. I don't know if any of you have ever had that experience where you actually get to I'm sure we've all had the head chef stop by and say, hey, how's the food? But to have them actually talk to you about the food or themselves or share a little bit about themselves with you just really made the connection to the food even more special for me. That was really cool. Miles said, do I have a game planned for game night tonight? And no, Miles, I don't have any particular game planned for tonight. I'm pretty open to things that other people want to play tonight. Jeremy says that trying to make onion rings at home is difficult. I can see that. Jeremy. I tried to make fried pickles at home recently and had difficulties with that. Chris says, how about Scottish traditions like haggis or black pudding? I have tried both. I enjoy haggis. Black pudding I did try, not in Scotland, but I tried that in Wales a few years ago. Oh, sorry, I've got a fly on my wall here. Let's see if we can get it. Got it. I did try black pudding, and it was difficult for me to eat, I will say. It is not my preferred breakfast food. I'd rather have kind of a more ordinary sausage than black pudding. But I'm glad I got to try it. Or maybe I'm thinking of blood pudding. No, I'm thinking of blood sausage, not black pudding. So I might be talking about different things here. I've had blood sausage. I don't know if I've had black pudding. What is black pudding? Eric says he once tried to make homemade tiramisu and it was an epic fail. He said the consistency was like soup. I could see that being very difficult to make. Tiramisu, I think, would be difficult. Brian said the cheese rolls at Fogo de Chao. All it takes is tapioca flour. Oh, that's nice. It seems easier than they make it seem. I've also seen those rolls frozen now at grocery stores, so that's maybe a way to cheat and still get the rolls at Fogo de Chao. I went there at Gen Con last year. I went to Fogo de Chao, and I remember enjoying those cheese rolls quite a bit. Connor is continuing his question about the possibly rancid food that I'm hypothetically experiencing at a foreign restaurant where I don't speak the language. He said the food actually tastes way better than it smells. No longer hungry, I decide to find a place to rest, but my wallet is missing. It's too late and the U.S. consulate is closed. And my phone is broken now at this point. The evening temperature is warm and for now bug-free. I plan to sleep on the beach nearby or on a wooden bench in the park. I would probably try to find a friendly local and try to explain the situation. And if I could not, I would probably try not to sleep. I don't know if I would, even though it's very difficult for me to not sleep. I need to sleep, and I am not good at pulling all-nighters at all. I haven't done that in 15 years. I would probably try to stay awake. And that leads me to a question for you, Connor, and anyone else who wants to answer. What is the last all-nighter that you pulled? A night where you truly just did not sleep, or let's say minimum of 30 minutes, but where your intent that night was just to not sleep at all, and you pulled it off. And why? When and why? Anthony says, do you think we'll ever see a two-player game from Stonemaier Games? I know most of my games play well at two, but games designed for two always feel more tight and competitive. Yeah, I can see that, Tony. I think that's fair to say, and I will say probably never. Yeah, probably never, because really I want to design games that scale from one or two, up to 5 or 6, so you can play them as a couple or as a larger group. I like that breadth of game options there. So it probably isn't something that we'll pursue. The only like asterisk on that is that I do love Seven Wonders Duel. I love Hanami Koji. I love Patchwork. I love those 2-player games. So if anyone ever pitched one of those games to me that really captured me in the same way those games did or do, I might have a hard time saying no to them. At the same time, I don't know if we ever will get pitched for them because I actively ask people not to pitch those games. I want to be pitched games that play 2 to 5. But maybe someday I will have an inspiration for a game that simply does not play it more than 2 players, and I will design it myself. But I think highly unlikely, at least for the foreseeable future. Dwayne says that he's mastered fried rice. Secret is a sprinkle of sugar. Interesting. Yeah, I've found that a little bit of brown sugar in salmon in particular, which is not normally a dish that you think of having sugar, makes it really, really good. Beth had jambalaya with alligator tail in New Orleans years ago and really loved it. I had alligator or crocodile. I had crocodile in Australia. I thought it was okay. It was a little chewy. I like frog legs. I don't know if that's a New Orleans thing. Sherry says that we made the bread pudding at home that they used to serve at the Harvest restaurant in St. Louis. They had the best bread pudding. Are they still open? I feel like the Harvest isn't still open, Sherry, which is too bad if they did have the best bread pudding. But I'm glad that you figured out how to make it at home. Barbara says that Alton Brown says that Memphis is the best food town in America. You know, I've been to Memphis, I think, once or twice, Barbara, and I agree that the food there is really, really delicious. I think I mostly focused on barbecue while I was there, but I'm sure there are other good types of food in Memphis as well. Chad says, have I ever lost a cooperative game and my group just had to play it again? Just had to play it again. Emphasis on had. Is there? I'll answer that first. I remember that actually happening. That's definitely happened, and I remember it happening distinctly with the first time I played Pandemic, where we barely lost. We played it again. We barely lost. Played it again. Played it 3 times in a row. I think it's happened with other cooperative games, but that's one of the reasons that I actually really like cooperative games that play in about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, because then you can play them right again when you have that moment of, oh, we just barely lost. We got to do this again. Chat says, is there a game length that would prevent me from starting the game right after playing it? I would say an hour is right around that limit. Yeah, an hour for me. Both because my game night is usually 2 to 2.5 hours, and also because I typically don't want to play the same game that many times in a row over 2 hours of the same game. Chad says he recently watched an online video about how they make bloomin' onions, and 15 minutes later he was eating my own bloomin' onion that he ordered from Outback. It is faster than making your own if you just go to Outback. I've never actually had the bloomin' onion at Outback. I need to have that someday. Dale says that his last all-nighter was a paper sculpture for a magazine cover that was due the next day. That's cool, Dale. Kent says, does working night shift count? Yeah, I would say that counts. Tom says that he does Gamers on the Edge. It's a game-a-thon, 25-hour game-a-thon that he does in November. He does it every year, and it gets more difficult every year. I can definitely see how that would get harder as we get older. But I'm impressed that you pull it off. 25 hours is a lot. Angie says I should definitely visit Puerto Rico. And I have, Angie. Yeah, I had a wonderful food experience in Puerto Rico. In fact, I had the best mussels that I've ever had in my life at a restaurant in Puerto Rico. I don't remember the name of the restaurant, but it was amazing. Have I ever tried mofongo? I don't think I've tried mofongo. I had asabuco in Puerto Rico that was also absolutely delicious, but I don't think I've had mofongo. What is mofongo? Sherry says that her last all-nighter was for CQ duty when she was in the Army. Yeah, people are sharing their all-nighter stories. Thank you for sharing these. A couple 24-hour game marathons here. For another one from Gavin. Brian says, what's my favorite theme for a game that I haven't done through Stonemaier? Old Western pirates, superheroes? I'd say time travel. I love time travel. One of the reasons I love time stories. Time travel is a theme that always intrigues me a little bit. Miles has been on a Kongi kick. And James says everybody's making him hungry, talking about all this food. Miles, this is a good example. Miles says The Mind is a great game, or it's a game that makes you just want to play it again, and that's super short. I think that even helps even more if the cooperative game is really short, 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I've had it happen with the Shipwreck Arcana, one of my new favorite cooperative games is back there. I've definitely played that multiple times in a row, and that's another 15 to 20 minute game at most. Tim says he's made ramen, all the parts of ramen. Now, that is very difficult to do. Tim, I'm very impressed by that, because with ramen, the broth itself, I think, takes a day or two just to make the broth. So I'm very impressed that you were able to pull that off. Oh, actually, did you pull it off? You made it. Were you happy with the results? Barbara's the night nurse, so at least once a month, Barbara stays up 24 plus hours. Wow. I guess do you train your body to do it, Barbara? Do you use caffeine? Like, how do you do that once a month? I would find that very difficult. Joseph did a 24-hour gaming session. Ernani says, have I tried acai? Like the berry acai? I've had if you're talking about the berry, I have had it. If you're talking about a game, I don't think so. Kent says, which module is my favorite for time stories? I think I still have to say a Prophecy of Dragons, but I loved almost all the modules. There was really only one module that I would not recommend, and 7 out of 8 is pretty incredible. The one that I wouldn't recommend is the second one. I think it's the Marcy case, but all the others I just blew my mind time after time. I really love the pirate one. The last one is French themed. I really enjoyed that one. The Egyptian one. The Antarctic one. Yeah, there's so many, but I would say Prophecy of Dragons is still my favorite. What about you? What's your favorite? Kent says that he did a 36-hour marathon in high school. Yeah, high school, I could maybe have pulled it off in high school, but even then I liked my sleep. The Dice Odyssey. Let me take a sip here. The Dice Odyssey says, have I ever been to Brazil? And no, I have not been to Brazil. Have I tried Brazilian pastels? It's a slightly crispy dough envelope that's been cooked in vodka, and you can ask for meat or cheese or whatever I want inside of it. That sounds amazing. I want that now. But no, I haven't ever had that. That sounds really, really good, though. Vitaly says, on my Ireland trip, I probably couldn't escape black pudding. It's a breakfast staple there. It's basically blood pudding. Okay, then I probably have had that. I definitely had at least one traditional Irish breakfast when I was there. I also had a very memorable corned beef when I was there, because it was the thickest slab of bacon that I've ever seen. It was incredible. Kim only sleeps 3 to 4 hours every night. I'm sorry to hear that, Kim. I would really struggle with that. I need to get 7 to 8. Scrolling down here. Joseph says, any game that I've been meaning to try but haven't gotten to. Unfortunately, I do have several games on my shelf of opportunity back here that I've been meaning to try that I haven't gotten to. Too many. I think I have 3 sections on my Calyx shelf right now of games that I need to play. Need to learn and play. I would say the top of that list is still the Crusoe crew. I really need to play the Crusoe crew. All right, I think we reached the end of the comments here. It's 11 o'clock, so I've done my hour. Not done. I make it sound like punishment. I had fun with my hour with you today. Thank you for joining me. And I'm going to go work on some other stuff now and have a little bit of chocolate. So have a great Wednesday. Happy gaming. Jamie, have fun at the soccer game tonight. And I will see you all next Wednesday. Take care.